Hey guys, how are you? I hope everyone is well. It's Loren here at Tanglewood on another spectacularly beautiful morning. I hope life is beautiful where you are too. I know for some people it's been challenging, continuing to be challenging. I understand that Los Angeles just extended the lockdown. I don't know details how long that's going to be the case, but unfortunately, it's not over yet. This may be different depending on where you are. Hopefully, um, you're in a place, as I am, where there is no lockdown. That we are being encouraged not to go out more than necessary, but there's no rules about that. What they have done here, which is insane, is close parks, close the beaches. The places where people can go and get fresh air and sunlight, which is good for you, are closed. You're not supposed to be in those places. You're not supposed to sit on a park bench. On a bench on the sidewalk. You're not supposed to sit down. You're supposed to do what you need to do and go home, which I can't complain. I'm in paradise. It's not bad here. I see Bob is here and some others who may already know. I see we've got quite a few super chats already. Looks like they're all Brandon. Hello, Brandon. Good to see you. I'll get to those in just a moment. But good to see you here. I'm glad you're here. And thank you in advance, Bob. Good to see you as well. Snoopy Frog, good to see you. MC, nice to see you. Jordan, hello there. Enrico, I'm glad to see you. John, good to see you too. JJRU, Eden, good to see you. Insay Marketers, nice to see you. Jackoff, Andrew, MC, hello everybody. MC, Monsong. Okay, nice to see you, Monsong. I think I mentioned last time I saw you here that it would be good to chat. So why don't you shoot me an email and let me know what your schedule is, and maybe over the weekend we can find a time to chat. I'd love to talk with you. Okay, so I'm glad everyone's here. Again, I know you're all in different places, and some places where things are much more strict than they are here. There's some very intense, crazy things going on, but I'm going to start with the questions that we have already, and then we'll get to some of that. So let me scroll back up to the top here. Brandon has made several donations already and asked some questions. Good morning, Loren. How bad is distracted eating? I have a tendency to watch YouTube video or something on Netflix while eating dinner. Well, it's not necessarily a terrible thing, but it's far from optimal. So my advice to you, I'll be honest with you, I will sometimes do the same thing. And I wouldn't do that if I really thought it was a terrible thing, but it's always better. And I know I do it sometimes, especially like I'm often, over the last 2 months, I often find myself eating a meal sitting right here at this table with my laptop in front of me and my food, because I don't have enough time to catch up on all the videos. I've been watching everything about what's going on, looking at the stuff that's seems worth watching anyway. There's a lot of stuff out there, but the only time I have to catch up on this stuff, I can't get my news from the networks. I can't, I have to look to these alternative sources that are actually tuned in and are, the people out there that are finding these documents and showing us what's actually happening. And I can only do that. I don't have enough time to do that. As it is, I probably owe some of you here an apology because I haven't been able to get back to you, because I owe people emails because I've been so busy. And I'm blessed. I'm very grateful. The first couple weeks, I'm wondering what's going to happen because we didn't have enough money to pay the bills coming in. And we operate on very tight margins here. I don't take a salary. Everything that we have earned has been reinvested into this place or into the big project, which most of you have heard me talk about. And that's on purpose. We've had consistent, we've been pretty consistently busy now for 23 and a half years, 23 plus years, not a half yet. But so I haven't really worried too much. There's always been something coming. All of a sudden, we had our cash flow cut because travel restrictions, no one could come. Well, fortunately, there have been enough people that have wanted to work with me online that I'm currently, I've been working with up to 13, 14 people every day, which keeps me super busy, super busy, and makes it hard for me to sometimes get to everything else I need to do. But it's allowed enough income to continue paying the bills. And even, right now, because there's no one here, we should be open, but because there's no one here, we're doing some catching up on some renovation type work. We have a thatch roof over here that needed to be replaced, and it turns out the structure was, we were upgrading that a little bit. We're painting some of the metal roofs that needed to be painted. Those kinds of projects, and we're hoping to get a jump. We haven't yet. We settled about 3 or 4 weeks ago now on the land next door. We've owned that now for nearly about a month, and haven't had a chance to do anything. I mean, we've been waiting for the rain to become regular, and now it is, but we haven't started yet. So it's time to get over there, and that's going to mean bringing in some additional people. So we've actually been able to stay on top of some of those things as well. Hopefully, we'll continue to stay busy enough. And some of you are already aware of this, but I've also been offering a discount for those people, something we've never done before. If you register now for your next fast, and you don't have to know when it's going to happen, you just have to make the commitment to coming. But you do that now, and you can save 20% off our current rates. That's something we've never done, literally never done before for a single fast. One fast, you can save 20%. That's quite a bit. Prices are going to have to go up at some point. You're going to be locked in at the best price, and that helps us continue, having some cash flow now, where otherwise cash flow is limited from what it normally is, allows us to continue surviving for the time being. Okay, so coming back to the question, yeah, it's definitely not optimal. You want to put your attention into what you're doing. I mean, this is always the case. We're always going to feel more contented when we're doing a single thing. But with eating, it's much more important, because in order to really connect with the food, we need to be fully present. And it's hard to be fully present if we're watching something, listening to something, doing something else, right? So it's always best to eat and just eat. Okay, and I don't know about you, Brandon, my meals typically take me 20 to 30 minutes. I don't eat that much. I spend 20 to 30 minutes eating. It's probably not that hard to put aside the 20 or 30 minutes and just do that. Okay. I hope that helps. Brandon has also asked, do you use a pillow while sleeping? Any downside for using a pillow at night? I do use a pillow while sleeping. I prefer a soft pillow that's, so it's not very high. You can see when I sit up this way, the distance from my shoulder to my head. So if I'm lying on my side, which is how I invariably sleep, I don't sleep on my back or my belly, almost never, almost always on one side or the other. And so for me, sleeping on my side, sleeping on my back, a pillow is less necessary. I still use one. I mean, I lay on my back sometimes. I rarely fall asleep that way, but I prefer something that's, again, not very thick. It's pretty soft, and it's not very much. So when I'm on my back, my head's not much elevated. If it were, if we're elevated, I'd be going way forward like that. But when I lie on my side, without a pillow, without something there, my head would wind up doing that, and that would be less comfortable. There are no downsides that I'm aware of. As long as we're comfortable. I mean, even some people say you should sleep on a floor because a bed is an unnatural thing. A mattress is unnatural. It should be a hard surface. Well, if I was in nature, I would definitely choose a bed of moss or leaves, soft leaves, rather than a rock. Okay, so I'm not going to sleep on a hard floor. There's nothing wrong with sleeping on a mattress. Now, people say, well, they wind up with back problems, and the truth is, they're misunderstanding what's happening. The mattress doesn't create the back problem. The pillow doesn't create the neck problem. What creates those problems is inflexibility, and that often stems from dehydration. So when the body's hydrated, you can sit on chairs, and you can lie on mattresses, and you can use pillows, and it's not going to hurt you. The problem is when you're inflexible and you hold a position for a while, it can create tension. And that's where people get in trouble. Okay. It's not the mattress or the pillow or the chair that's the issue. It's the dehydration. That's the issue. All right. Last question for you, Loren. I'm reading here. I use plants to purify the indoor air of our home, but also use salt lamps, beeswax candles, activated charcoal bags, and burn white sage in the air. Any downsides to this? Well, the only downsides, I mean, so plants are awesome for purifying air. Most plants are doing potentially plants can do two things for you. One is to provide oxygen. And so plants during the day, virtually all plants, there may be some exceptions, but virtually all plants during the day take in carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. And we do the opposite. So we take in oxygen and put out carbon dioxide. And so we have a symbiotic relationship with plants. Now at night, most plants do the same thing that we do. They put out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen. So you want to be a little cautious about which plants you have in your bedroom, as most houseplants are actually competing with you for oxygen at night. During the day, they're not, but at night, when you're in your bedroom, they're actually competing with you. One of the exceptions, I happen to have on the table right here, a small example. There's various different species. This is called a snake plant for obvious reasons. Also, humorously, in many places, this is called, here in Central America, we call this mother-in-law's tongue, lengua suegra, tongue of the mother-in-law. And these plants are different. This family of plants takes all the time. It's always taking in carbon dioxide and putting out oxygen. It doesn't switch back and forth between night and day. And so snake plants are some of the best plants to have in your bedroom. Okay, so the plants, that's excellent. Salt lamp is fine. If you're not familiar with salt lamps, salt is a crystal. Salt lamp is a hunk of crystal, can be different sizes, that's been hollowed out. So there's a bulb inside, and it lights, and you're seeing light through the salt, which it's beautiful. I have one in our massage room here primarily because it's beautiful. I like them, but I like them primarily because of the beauty. I'm not sure about what else, how much other benefit there is from them. Activated charcoal bags with, but I can imagine if it's just a bag of activated charcoal, that's perfectly fine. The candles and sage, these two things, how they differ. Hey, buddy, got shy here. How candles and sage differ from the other things is, in both cases, you're talking about burning something. Okay, and that means there's smoke in the air. Now, there are smokeless candles, though I don't think there are smokeless candles made of beeswax. I'm pretty sure that beeswax candles will produce some smoke. And we don't want to breathe in smoke from any source. And so I love candles. I'll use them occasionally. I think you want to be a little cautious with how much. Also, you want to be careful because candles, some candles still today, this is a practice that's been going on for probably hundreds of years. Some candles contain lead in the wick. Okay, the wick is the little cloth thing that you light. Some of them have lead, a tiny lead wire to have them stand up. When you burn the candle, you're getting lead in the air, and I don't think you want lead in your air. So you want to avoid candles with a leaded wick. Okay, you can ask if you're not sure. You can usually tell because the wicks will be stiff. They'll stand up where other wicks may fall over. I take one that falls over. Okay, that's better. And sage, it's been scientifically verified that burning sage in your space will kill some pathogens in the space, bacteria, etc. Now, I'm not really worried about pathogens because it's all about the terrain, and that brings us back to the current situation. Everyone's terrified of this V thing. The there's no reason to worry about it, because if my body's clean and healthy, it can't bother me. Okay. I mean, I don't even believe in the contagion with this particular thing at all. Although it's true, I mean, people are affecting one person, can affect the next, and how that exactly works, I can't exactly say. But I know it's not exactly the way that people think it is, and I know that it's definitely not the Pasteur model. It's not the pathogen. It's the terrain, right? So we take care of that, not a worry. But if you want to, you like the smell of sage, or you believe it's beneficial, or for some people it's a spiritual thing, that's fine. Just be careful. You don't want too much smoke in your space. You don't want to breathe in smoke of any kind. Okay, that's the issue. Okay, so I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your generous donations. I didn't say in total these 3 super chats are $25, and I appreciate that very much, Brandon. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna. Oh, Brandon has another one here. Another $10, $9.99 to be exact. He says, I'll shoot a few more questions at you. Now, I see someone else, 1 or 2 other people have made super chats, and I will come to you. I'm just doing these in the order they showed up, okay? So don't worry, I'll be with you shortly. I'll shoot a few more questions at you, Loren. When you say leafy greens, you're referring to baby spinach and other. Are lettuces more optimal than baby spinach? Yes. Baby spinach is definitely better than mature spinach, but all spinach contains oxalic acid, and most varieties of spinach still contain a fair amount of complex starches. Cellulose is one example. And cellulose is defined, look in the dictionary, as indigestible. We can't digest it. And so a lot of things that people eat contain a fair amount of cellulose, and that's not a good idea to consume cellulose. The cruciferous vegetables, including spinach, cabbage, collard greens, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, I'm probably forgetting several. Kale, did I mention kale? Kale, collard greens. These very tough, not tender, not soft, but relatively tough leafy greens contain high amounts of complex starches that our bodies have a very difficult time digesting. That's why most of these plants are eaten cooked. And some of them, with sauerkraut and kimchi, these use cabbage in a process where there's fermentation, because the fermentation breaks down, helps to digest the fiber, these difficult to digest starches. I'm not a huge fan of fermentation, but there's a reason that people consistently around the planet eat these greens, either cooked or fermented, because they're very difficult to digest raw. So baby spinach is going to be more soft and tender than the more mature leaves of the same variety. Okay, so while spinach isn't optimal, baby spinach is better, and if you love it and want to eat it sometimes, that's fine. Now, there are about 30 varieties of lettuce, and lettuces are going to be your best choices in terms of leafy greens. The lettuces are generally speaking relatively soft and relatively tender, non-strong tasting. Why is that important? Because the strong tasting leafy greens are strong tasting by virtue of the fact that they contain alkaloids, specific chemicals that the plant has manufactured in order to warn their insect and animal predators that they're toxic. And they're toxic. I mean, they make these things that give them a strong smell and taste and toxicity. And it's there to keep themselves from being eaten, because they want to survive. They don't want to be food. Okay? So baby spinach is a better choice, but lettuces are going to be the best choice. There's about 30 varieties of lettuce that exist. You might want to see what you can find. You can grow your own relatively easily, at least over the spring and summer months. This is a good time to do it for anyone in the Northern Hemisphere. And, at places like Whole Foods, they do a pretty good job. Usually they'll have at least 5 or 6 different varieties of organic lettuce. I mean, that's only a small percentage of what's available, but those are the ones that you should be able to relatively easily find. The others, you can probably buy seeds and grow your own if you can't find them. Okay, I hope that helps. I will move on. Again, I'm going to be skipping lots of hellos. I hope everyone's doing well. I see William, I see a question. Are you fasting this week? I'm not fasting this week, if that's what you're asking. I'm not personally fasting. We are technically open. We have no one here. I just completed a fast. I offered my staff, since we were closed anyway, if they wanted to fast, they were welcome to. They wouldn't be working, so they wouldn't get paid. Although they don't know it, I'm planning on paying them a little bit of money because I know they depend on it. But they didn't have to pay to fast. It wasn't going to cost them anything. I just wanted to offer it to them as a gift. And only 2 of the staff took me up on it. And so they just completed their processes yesterday. It's been a week here. They didn't go home. They stayed here, and they left yesterday and are back working today. But they're done now. So I'm not fasting now. Okay. Inse, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it looks to me like Inse Marketers has made a $5 donation and asked, when can one reintroduce dates into a diet after a 21 to 30-day fast? How many is too many? Well, it's interesting. I've had several clients from places like Saudi Arabia where people have grown up eating dates. And dates are one of the few fruits that will grow there. I mean, they can grow some citrus. They can grow a lot of things if they irrigate. But in a desert, there aren't very many things that will grow. Date palms, palm trees grow in deserts, and dates grow on palm trees. They're date palms. We don't have them here, by the way. People ask about dates sometimes. If we have any date palms, because we have palm trees. We have several varieties of palm trees here. We don't have date palms because date palms have 2 requirements that we can't meet. They grow best in deserts. They require relatively little water. They require some water, but not what we have here. But even more importantly, they require very hot temperatures. So if you're from the US, they require roughly 100 days of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you are anywhere else in the world and speak Celsius, that's roughly 39 degrees, I believe, 100 days. So I'm coming up in July. It'll be 15 years that I've lived here in Central America. And over that time, at the same elevation the whole time. So where I live, at this elevation, I've lived in a couple different places, but the 2 long-term places, I'm here now for more than 7 years. At another place where I spent more than 6 years, so more than 14 of those 15 years. We have not had a single day at that temperature. It's not hot enough for the date palms. So I wouldn't introduce dates back into my diet for at least 6 weeks after fasting, because you want to stick with high water content fruits instead. Dates are not high water content fruits, not by a long shot. Dates are going to be, depending on at what stage, because you can pick them when they're yellow or orange. They're not brown, they're not wrinkled, they're not real dry. They're not juicy where it's going to drip down your chin, but they are not super dry either. They have some water in them. Like a banana doesn't drip down your chin, but it's still 70+% water. Dates can be like that, or you can buy them from a shop where they've been, they were in some cases picked 8, 9, 10 months ago, drying out the whole time. Either way, dates, the way they're typically sold, dates have a high, very high glycemic load, right? And glycemic load is a measure of how much something is likely to impact your blood sugar. So to give you a sense of this, the glycemic load chart goes from 0 on up. I don't know if there's an upper limit, but most fresh fruits are in the low range, which is 0 to 9. At the top of that, we have things like mangoes and pineapples, which are going to be around the 8 or 9. But almost, most of the fruits we eat are going to be closer to 3, 4. Apples, oranges, grapes, peaches, nectarines, all those things are going to be between maybe 3 and 5, somewhere in that range, which is in the bottom half of the low range of the glycemic load chart. Moderately, in the range, moderate fruits include all the very sweet fruits, bananas, mame, sapote, durian, jackfruit. Those all have a moderate glycemic load because they're very sweet. They have a lot of sugar. Well, again, the way dates are usually sold, they're dried. Okay, they're not like raisins, which are dried unnaturally. Dates are allowed to dry on the tree. They're in desert conditions, so they just leave them on the tree. They actually harvest them when they're already brown and wrinkled and shriveled up. Why? Because as the water leaves, they become sweeter and sweeter. The sugar becomes a greater percentage of what's left, and that's what people want when they eat dates. So dates have a very high glycemic load, where high on the chart is anything 20 or above. Dates, the way they're sold, are usually in the mid 40s, low to mid 40s. That's very high. It would always be best to eat no more than a few dates at a time. And the people who grew up with dates in places like Saudi Arabia tell me that people routinely don't eat more than 4 or 5 dates at a time. I know a lot of people have eaten a lot more than that. And when I first went raw 28 and a half years ago, and I found myself craving something I didn't want to eat, I would go get a bag of medjool dates, and I'd go get a bag of raw cashews, and I eat them together. And of course, the raw cashews weren't really raw. I didn't know that at the time. I thought they were. And those two things together, don't do very well together. You have high fat and high sugar. I felt the impact of that. Wasn't the best thing in the world to do, but that's what I was doing at the beginning. It was easy for me to eat a pound of dates at a time. I would now eat only a few at a time, generally speaking, unless they're really fresh and not dried out. Okay, hope that helps. Riley, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Riley has made a $20 donation, and has given me a smiley face. Not asked a question at all. Thank you very much. ITAC, UMCell, 10 euros. ITAC says, hello, Loren. During a supervised water fast via Skype, can you get problems with bowel movements because of the old hard material that you cannot solve yourself? No. Generally speaking, I guess I would have to say honestly, yes, it's possible, but that's exceptionally unlikely. When you talk about problems, with thousands of people that I fasted now in 23 and a half years that I've run Tanglewood, 23 plus years, there's a handful of people. Maybe 30 or 40 people have ever used enemas. Okay, some years no one does. Some years maybe 1 or 2 people. Maybe there's 50 or 60 people have used enemas over the time, but that usually does it. We've had a few people that didn't help, and we've tried herbal laxatives. Usually what works best, and this isn't much fun, and I'm sorry to have to talk about this, but sometimes the best way is a latex glove and an oiled finger, and you go in there and see what you can pull out. Sometimes that's what has to happen. I know anyone works in a nursing home and deals with elderly people. The nurses there, the orderlies have to deal with this kind of thing sometimes because it happens a lot. Typically, the way most people eat, the bowel is increasingly impacted over time. Most people are carrying a bunch of old hard material. Older people more likely to have trouble with this, and it becomes harder and harder to eliminate for them. And so this is a common thing, but it's very, very unusual. I wouldn't worry about it. What you can do is you can make sure you have an enema on hand. You probably would never need it. Most people, the vast majority, 99% of the people I work with, probably closer to 99.9% of the people I work with never need to do anything except follow simple directions. Drink enough water, right? Eat the food when the time comes to do that. Exercise when the time comes to do that, and rest completely through the fast, and then start being active when the time comes. I'll give people instructions, very simple. Very simple instructions. If people can just follow those simple instructions, there's almost never a problem. Everyone eliminates. Okay, everyone eliminates. I now have 5 or 6 people refeeding. They're all eliminating now. I mean, everyone's been refeeding, I think, for at least a few days. I have one more person starting tomorrow, of the group I mentioned earlier that I'm working with. The several calls. By the way, I do these group calls, by the way, I used to take up to 5 people at a time. I had a complaint from one person that said there isn't enough time to ask questions. Like we'd like to get more Q&A, more mini lecture from you. And with 5 people, we were taking most of our time just dealing with the individual's vital signs. Now, that's not always the case. In many cases, we can easily get through everyone in 30 to 40 minutes. But we had a couple of people that took a lot of time. And so I decided that I was going to limit my calls to 4 people from now on. And I'm currently doing 3 of those calls every day, and then working with 1 or 2 people outside of that who pay more for that. Okay, if you want to work with me one-on-one, we can do that, but it's going to be expensive because to me, my time, which is precious and very limited, is very valuable. Okay, so that's always a possibility, but for most people, the group is going to make more sense. On our website, the Skype coaching rates, those are for group calls. 4 people, it's an hour-long call. It's an amazing experience. Everyone loves it and learns a ton. With 4 people, there's always time to answer questions. I mean, some days there may not be, but generally speaking, over the course of a 4 to 6 week process that most people do, we've got 28 to 42 calls. There's going to be plenty of time to get questions asked, okay, to get what you need. So it's not something you need to worry about, ITAC. As long as you can follow simple directions, I promise you're going to be fine. There's a 99.99% chance you're going to be perfectly fine. Okay, I hope that helps. Again, thank you so much for the generous support. I appreciate that. M. Will. Okay. M. Will, I don't know who you are. Thank you so much for the $20 donation. The question is, how much sunshine do you believe is a healthy amount? I'm feeling better now that I'm spending about 2 to 3 hours outside. Well, that's a difficult question to answer without having some additional parameters, because it depends on where you are. I don't know where you are. Donation is a $1 donation. The fact that you are now spending 2 to 3 hours outside, it's mid-May, suggests to me that you're in a place that's cold through the winter. And so you wouldn't spend much time outside in the wintertime. I'm outside now, sitting on a patio here. For those of you that haven't here with me before, some of you have seen this before, I'll just give you a little bit of a look at my surroundings. It's going to be hard to do this, but I'm going to turn this slowly so you can see. There's some plants right here. I'm outside on a patio, covered patio. There's my garden. And I'm going to pick this up. It'll be easier to turn. Oh. With the cables, it's a little hard. It's a wired connection. So there's that's a guanabana tree right there. Ginger shrubs. There's papayas, a couple avocados coming up that need to pull out and remove, and a whole bunch of tomato plants in that garden right there. Here I've got my little kitchen, and then I'm going to turn it this way because of the cables back to me. So I'm outside most of the day. I'm sitting outside right now. I've been here since 5 o'clock this morning. It's now 9:37, so I've been out here already for 4.5 hours. I'll get up between calls if I have a moment. I sometimes don't, and do some push-ups or something. But I'm right here much of the day. And when I do, when I'm done my calls after this, I actually have 2 more calls. I'm going to be here for a while today. When I'm all done, I'll get up and I'll take a walk through the garden. You might hear some tapping in the background. I apologize for that. Again, because we have no clients here, we have contractors working on things we wouldn't normally be doing when we were open, but there's a little bit of noise. Fortunately, they were going to be re-roofing the thatch roof rancho just on the other side of my wall right here. That's not happening because the palm needs to dry. We got a lot of rain, and so they wanted to dry a bit before they they put it up. Okay, so it's hard to say. In this climate, you wouldn't want to spend 2 or 3 hours in the sun, direct sunlight. It would be too much. Typically, I mean, this is the result of too much sunshine here in the tropics. It's not too much sunshine. It's a result of repeatedly badly burning myself. This may come as a surprise to some of you. People often remark on how tan I look. And I mean, I've lived here for 15 years and I'm outside constantly. Right here, I'm in the shade right now. But I usually spend quite a bit of time walking around the garden as well, directing staff and designing our gardens and trails and buildings and everything else. My skin is actually pretty fair when it's not in the sun. It used to be in the wintertime I'd become very white, and then in the summertime it'd become very, very brown. And now I stay pretty brown most of the time. But I've severely burned my forehead numerous times and created some damage as a result. So if you're living in a place, if you're living, say, from Washington, D.C. north, then you can probably do 2 or 3 hours of sunshine. I know I can. And in that climate, it's no problem. That's 1,800 miles north of me. So our sun is much stronger than that here. That's where I grew up, Washington, D.C. There, I'd run around in the sun all summer, like all day long, no trouble. I mean, at the very beginning, it'd be a problem. And I got myself burned even as a kid. I mean, I started out with sun poisoning as a child on a few occasions where I had to stay out of the sun for a month at a time because I'd so badly burned myself. If I was smart and got it slowly over time, then I reached a point where I didn't need any sunscreen. It was perfectly fine. So it depends where you are. Here and in the tropics, 15 or 20 minutes of sunlight is more than enough. For most people in the southern half of the U.S., 15 minutes a day, at least during the summer, is ample. If you live further north, the sunlight, those rays are coming through a thicker layer. Just because of the angle, they're going to be coming through more atmosphere, and therefore you will need a little bit more time in the sun. But look, if you're not burning yourself, it's fine. If you feel better, that's great. Definitely, most people would probably be much better off getting more sunlight than less. Most people probably don't get enough, and vitamin D is critically important to us, and a lot of people are probably deficient. A lot of people are deficient in vitamin D, and it's not just vitamin D. Okay, we naturally make vitamin D when sunlight hits the skin. Cholesterol that the body produces converts to vitamin D, and it's we don't need to eat animal products. The body produces all the cholesterol it needs. But that's how we get vitamin D naturally, and we don't get it otherwise the way we should unless we're getting sunlight. So a lot of people are not getting anywhere near enough sunlight. We also need sunlight in our eyes, our unprotected eyes. So no glasses, no sunglasses ever. Bad idea. You're going to burn more with sunglasses. I used to wear them. Haven't worn them now for almost 30 years. I don't own a pair. I've lived here 15 years, don't own a pair of sunglasses. But you need those photons to enter the eyes where they're converted to electrical impulses and affect how the autonomic nervous system functions. It doesn't function as it should. It doesn't function as it needs to if you're not getting sunlight in your eyes. Okay, and glass or plastic like contact lenses, which nobody should ever wear, are going to prevent that from happening. Okay, so you're going to want to have unprotected eyes. So folks, now I'm sharing a lot of information, tell you lots of questions. So far it's just been questions. Haven't really said much else yet, and may or may not have a chance to if the super chats keep coming. If you're getting information here that you think is valuable to you, please give this a thumbs up. If you believe that this is information other people would benefit from, maybe you'll consider sharing this on your page, your channel, your Facebook, wall, whatever it might be. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Let me scroll down because there's more super chats waiting here. Anthony Samaroff. Anthony, good to see you. How you doing? You are up in Scotland, if I remember correctly. I hope you're doing well. Anthony interviewed me for his podcast a couple of times. I think was it twice? I think it was twice. Anyway, Anthony has made a 5 British pound donation and has said, please comment on the hypothesis the brain grew because cooking allowed us to get more calories and our whole face adapted around eating cooked foods. Sure, I'll be glad to comment on that. I think that's almost certainly nonsense, that our brain grew because of cooked foods. What we know is that cooking foods creates toxic compounds and destroys nutrients. And so it's entirely unlikely that we were going to see, and there's no, by the way, there's no scientific evidence for this. Is, as Anthony said correctly, this is a hypothesis. There are some people who say, oh, this is a fact, this is what happened. No, there's absolutely nothing to prove that this is what happened. It's just an idea that some people believe. I don't happen to be one of those people. First of all, if our brain grew as a result of eating cooked food, how did we get smart enough to cook our food? Okay. I mean, there aren't a lot of animals cooking their food, and I'd like to know how was it that we became smart enough to know that we could cook our food, right? Now, I have another. So I don't think that hypothesis holds any water. It doesn't make any sense to me. We eat cooked food, and what happens is we make the body sick. We make the body toxic. We make the body dehydrated eating cooked food because we're cooking water out of food. And because the perfect water in our food is much more easily absorbed by the body than the water that we drink, it's very difficult to get enough water. If we're eating cooked food regularly, it's going to dehydrate us. We can't get enough water to keep ourselves hydrated. And so, I believe that people become, and I've noticed this for myself, and other people tell me the same thing. They could, get a clean body, someone who's worked with me and gotten their body truly clean, right? Anthony, I know you've done some shorter fasts, but haven't done a longer one yet. You get your body truly clean, you go eat cooked food, you don't think nearly as well. Okay, you're going to have brain fog. You're going to feel more confused. I mean, it's not, people don't do as well. And there are people listening who might think, okay, that's bullshit. I eat cooked food every day and I feel and function perfectly well. Okay, no argument. And it might well be that that person speaking that, is 19 times smarter than I am. Okay, and so they're going to do perfectly fine. They're going to think okay. But how can you know if you've never had a truly clean system and never lived on only fruits and leafy greens and with nothing cooked? How can you possibly know how well your body and brain might function under those conditions? Well, I think the only honest answer is you can't know. It's not possible. Okay, I can tell you for myself. I mean, I did some double-blind. Okay, not really. I just did some stupid things when I was younger, right? Including using drugs and alcohol excessively. I wasn't all that happy with my life at 14, began to smoke pot and drink beer, which I never liked the taste of, but I liked the effect of. I got alcohol, hard liquor when I was able to. And I did these things until I was 25, at which point I can tell you that my brain didn't work nearly as well as it used to. I didn't think as well. I had a lot of brain fog. I couldn't connect. I couldn't find the words I needed. My brain had stopped functioning. I was tested when I was younger at very high levels, but not anymore. I mean, it wasn't the test didn't show that. It was that I wasn't functioning that way. I got my body clean, right, including not eating cooked food anymore. And what happened? All of a sudden, more mental clarity than I'd ever experienced before on an ongoing basis, even when I'm underslept. Okay, it's a completely different thing. So I don't think that hypothesis holds any water. I believe what happened is very simple. Humans wound up in non-friendly climates, non-tropical climates, because we're tropical animals. Even today, no matter where you live, even in Scotland, and I've been in Scotland, where even in the summertime sometimes it's pretty chilly. And no matter where you live, you're living in a tropical environment. Inside your clothing, okay, we use clothing, heated buildings, etc., to create micro-tropical climate inside of our clothes, at the skin, because that's what we need to survive as tropical animals. Okay, the only place we could run around 365 days a year in our birthday costumes is here in the tropics. Okay, we haven't adapted to anything else. I mean, we've adapted by using our intelligent brains, but the body hasn't changed. So where we can now walk around like other animals who live in the Arctic do. We can't do that. People who go up the Arctic have all kinds of clothing on, special gear to keep themselves warm enough. We're tropical animals. So I think what happened is this. Either we became curious and began exploring, or the climate changed first. We found ourselves in the same place, but now in cold conditions for the first time. What happened? The vast majority of people died. They died. They couldn't handle it. Their bodies weren't prepared for those difficult conditions, and they didn't survive. Who did survive? The ones that did survive were the ones that were intelligent enough to find a creative solution. They started building structures that could keep them warm. They found out how to control and create fire, and therefore only afterward to cook food. They had to get smart enough first to figure out how to do this. Okay, so the most intelligent ones are the ones that survived, and they bred with other intelligent survivors, more intelligent survivors. So the least intelligent, right, didn't make it, and the more intelligent survived, and they had offspring that were more intelligent still, because they got the best of both, right? And again, the weaker ones died off. Only the strongest, smartest ones survived. I believe that's what happened. I believe that's how we grew our brains, because we found ourselves in challenging situations, and we either survived or we didn't survive. Okay, those who survived because they grew neural pathways. They became more intelligent that way. I believe that's what happened. I think that makes a lot more sense than growing bigger brains from eating cooked food, or as some people have suggested, from eating animal products, which makes even less sense. Okay, if eating meat makes us smarter, then why aren't dogs and cats our masters? Because they've always been eating meat. Okay, they should be a lot smarter than we are, but they're not. Okay, I hope that helps. And thanks again for the support. I appreciate that. Those love songs. I love your name. Those love songs has made a $10 donation and has said, "I appreciate that you share your knowledge with us. Have you published a book, or are you going to publish one?" I'm actually working on 3 books right now, which is probably not the smartest thing to do. Actually, one of them was written a long time ago. It's a children's book, written in rhyme. It will be published. Well, I don't know. I've got an amazing artist working on it. He's amazing, but not the fastest artist in the world. And so it's already been a couple of years. I mean, he's got to work to support himself because I'm not paying him. I've made a deal with them. You know, artists, I was really surprised when I went to look at illustrators. Illustrators don't get paid very much usually. And I thought, you know, if this book is successful, he could make much more if we split the revenue. And that's what I've offered him. So he's got a 50% revenue split with me, net revenue, assuming we can sell the book. But it's taking a lot longer than I'd hoped it would to get this done, because he has to work. He works as a graphic designer. And so until it's done, it doesn't get published. I'm also about 90% of the way done a nonfiction book about health, which I hope to have finished by the end of the year. I would have thought these last 2 months would have been a perfect time to work on that. As I said, I'm now spending more time than ever sitting right here in front of my screen, talking to people on Skype or YouTube as it is right now. I've been sitting here now for nearly 5 hours. I have 2 more hours of calls to make. By the time I get up, it's only 2 in the afternoon. Excuse me, it's only noon today, and I've already 7 hours. And I don't really want to look at the screen. I do have to do more things, but online, I've got emails to answer and other work to do, but I haven't really been able to find or create the time. I need to shift that, and maybe I need to get up a little earlier still, and write in the morning, because that's my best time. If I get enough sleep, it's the best time for me to write in the morning. So that's coming soon. I have another book that I'm putting together, and it's actually photographs, my own photographs and inspirational quotes, and it's a fun little pet project of mine. I like inspirational quotes. I love photography. The photographs are, if you're on my Facebook page, I've been posting now for the last 2 weeks or so every day. I had done this a long time ago and started doing it again with having a great response. I think we've had as many as 150 some, almost 200 people react, like the posts. One post. Anyway, they're not all as successful, but that's something else I'm working on. And even that, I'm hoping to impart some wisdom. I'm thinking it'll be photograph with quote and then a little written piece about it. Why it's an important concept, etc. What's going on there? But there'll be more books. I love writing. It's just I'm a little lazy. It's hard for me to sit down and make it happen. It's easy to get distracted. I've got staff coming in right now they're not coming in because they know I'm live with you guys. But usually when I'm working, I'm often being distracted by people asking me questions. I've got volunteers working on various projects with me. We are about to, hopefully within a week, we'll have a new website up for Las Cascadas. I have to record a bunch of short videos for that. That's probably the last piece that needs to happen for the website for the time being. I think there might be one more section that's going to be a little slower to get done. We're working on an online course, nutrition health course. It'll be about a year-long program and then a second year, which will allow you to become a coach. That's coming soon as well. I don't know exactly how soon, but I've got someone here working on that with me, working on the big project, of course. And so all these things have slowed me down in terms of getting the book done as quickly as I'd like to. So I'm skipping over a whole bunch of comments here, looking for the other super chats. And let me see here. I scrolled down too fast and skipped over things. It's so easy. It's amazing how quickly everything moves. So I see there are lots of you here that made comments. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I may not be able to get to them all. I do have, so I've got to get to the super chats right away and maybe spend less time. Let me see what we've got here. Stephanie has made a $2.99 donation. Stephanie is a member of our community. Will be eventually moving here when she retires, and is here pretty much every week and always makes a donation. And Stephanie, I really appreciate that support. Good morning to you. I'm glad to see you here. I hope you're doing well. Remy Marco has made a 25 PLN. PLN is, I wonder if that's a Filipino something. I don't know what PLN stands for, but I'm guessing. Marco, I know, is a common name in the Philippines. I have a good friend named Marco who's Filipino. So I'm just wondering. Anyway, the comment is, hi, Loren. Whenever I do a fast, even a short one, I start to get a headache and my gums start to bleed a lot. What do you think causes that? Well, headache can be caused by various things, including dehydration. So it could be that you're not getting enough water. Most people start out significantly dehydrated and don't know how to tell whether they're getting enough water or not. I've got a request for you. Let me guide you through a supervised fast. You do it correctly, you are likely to minimize the symptoms and maximize the benefits while staying as healthy, as safe as possible. But it could be toxins, it could be dehydration, pressure. Those are the primary causes of headaches. Bleeding gums is fairly common. Most people need to heal the gums, and so when we fast, if you brush your teeth at all, I mean, sometimes it happens even if you don't touch them, but certainly people who brush their teeth will often have some blood when they're fasting, and that happens just because that's what happens. That's what happens when we fast sometimes, because the gums are healing. So it's not an unusual thing at all. Okay. Brenda is in the house and has made a $3.99 Canadian donation. Brenda, thank you so much. Brenda is another very dear friend who I hope will be joining our community, and has helped me tremendously with our fruit festivals the last couple of years, and is often here. I know is sometimes quite busy, but is often here when she can be, almost always supports me when she's able to. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Brenda. And I'm glad to see you as always. We have, let me scroll up a little bit. It's a little easier to see. It's not so low on the screen. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I apologize. I'm guessing it's Minote Joshi. It sounds like you might be from India and that part of the world anyway. She has made a $5 donation, $5 US donation. Maybe your people come from there because you're donating US dollars. Who knows? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's very generous, and I appreciate it very much. And again, Insay Marketers, who commented earlier, has asked a question. Thoughts on indoor grown microgreens, cilantro, radish, peas, sunflower. When is it okay to eat after a 30-day water fast? It's a good question. Well, first of all, my thoughts on these microgreens. Cilantro, radish, probably not something. Cilantro, is a culinary herb, and as is true with all the culinary herbs, the cilantro plant makes the alkaloid that gives it its characteristic smell and taste to protect itself. I talked about this earlier today. It's attempting to protect itself from being eaten, warning potential predators that it's toxic. It is toxic, not highly toxic, but it's toxic nonetheless, and it would be better to avoid eating it. And so I don't think those are ever going to be really at a stage. I mean, you can eat radish sprouts. That's better than the radish. The radish is the root. The radish sprout still tastes pretty spicy. I suppose if you were to throw a few in a salad or on, in a dish of some kind, assuming you're eating all raw, whatever you're eating would be okay, but probably not optimal. But okay if it's minimized. Sunflower greens, again, it's okay. They're okay to eat at their young stage. Peas, pea sprouts. I don't know if I've ever had microgreens. I've had sprouted peas and find them quite distasteful when they're still in the legume stage, before they've sprouted. The greens themselves, I guess I've had pea shoots. Yeah, I think they're okay. After fasting, 30-day water fast, I would probably hold off on those until at least after. So if you were to fast with me, which frankly would probably be the smartest thing you could do, I'll guarantee everybody here. I don't care if you fasted 10 times. I guarantee you, if you fast with me, I fasted thousands of people and I've fasted dozens of times myself. I guarantee it's going to be a whole different experience, because that's what everyone tells me. Everyone who's ever fasted with me, who's fasted somewhere else, says, wow, this is way more powerful. And this is true, by the way, for those people who've done dry fasts and thought that they'd already experienced the pinnacle, and they come here and do a water fast properly, and they tell me it's way more powerful and way more beneficial every single time. If you were to fast with me for 30 days, it's a 12-day refeeding process. It's a 6-week period. Certainly not during the refeeding process. I wouldn't use them. After that, it's probably okay. So after about 2 weeks would probably be okay. Okay, I hope that helps. I'm going to scroll. Thank you again for the donation. I'm going to scroll down. We have Enrico Napolitano, who's made a £2 donation saying, can Wi-Fi 5G develop pineal gland calcification? Well, it's a good question. Honestly, I don't know exactly what it's capable of. Ryan Taylor, shout me out. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Ryan, is I'm going to block you out, because it's not okay to post the same thing over and over again. What's going on? Why would you do that? It's just annoying. You're not helping anybody. You're asking to be kicked off the channel, and you won't be here again. Okay, and I apologize, but that's just what's going to happen. And I'm guessing you're asking for that. This is trolling behavior. Okay, I don't know what's going on with you, if you're emotionally balanced, but why would you go on to someone's broadcast and do that? It's not cool. I don't appreciate that. Okay, so let's see. I don't know exactly what will happen with regard to the pineal gland. It's certainly going to create issues for you, no question. But will it, can it create calcification? I believe the answer is yes, but I'm not an expert there. I'll have to look into that. It's a great question, and I'll do some research, and maybe I'll have the answer for you next week. What I can tell you is that what happens with 5G in particular is very similar to what people are seeing with the V right now, right? It's inability to properly access and process oxygen. That's what's going on. And so, again, not that the rollout of this technology is causing the issues, but it's definitely exacerbating them, okay? It's an additional source of toxicity, of stress on the body, which makes it very difficult for the body to get the oxygen that it needs, especially a body that's already not functioning so well, okay? And then, that's what they're seeing with these people, is they're having trouble with this, and this very well could be 5G. So I think that's the best I can do. I hope that's satisfactory, Enrico. Thanks so much for your donation. I appreciate that. PLN is Poland. Polish what? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the donation. I just happen to see that comment standing out. I think that was Monsong who shared that with me. Thank you so much. All right. Now I've got to scroll past 50 comments by Ryan, who insists on saying the same thing over and over again. What's up with that, really? Wow. I do not get it. Okay. So it looks like that's about it for the super chats. And I can see here I'm actually 4 minutes late for my next client call. I've got a consultation with someone who paid to speak to me, and I've got to go take that call. So thanks everybody so much for being here. I was thinking we'd have a little bit more time to talk about current events this week, some of the news, but maybe that's going to happen later on. We'll see if it makes sense. Maybe I'll do a midweek live broadcast this week. Look for information on Facebook. I'll post about that here on YouTube and Facebook. If it happens, it would likely be perhaps on Wednesday morning. We'll see. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the donations. I know some people aren't in a position to. I know some people are really struggling, and I understand. I'm happy to be here for you. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Hope you have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.